Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. "614 Startups Nation," welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups podcast. My name is Elio Harmon, your host, and I have a very special guest, Alicia Oddi, Managing Director at Rev1. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Elio.
All right, so it's so great to have you on. I know you personally, but I always like to start with each and every guest with a little bit of their background. So who is Alicia?
So I have been at Rev1 for about 10 years, and I've held a lot of roles from event coordinator to marketing director, and now I oversee our entrepreneur and inclusion programs. So I get to create and touch a lot of what we have available for our clients to help them build and grow their businesses.
Okay, that's a huge responsibility with Rev1 being such a big player in the ecosystem. That's a lot to have in your portfolio. And part of that portfolio are two new programs, which is why you're on. I mean, We know each other. We've hung out. We've done some panel interviewing, but we're on the show today to talk about two very important programs that are going to help entrepreneurs locally. The first one is the Grow to Scale Mentor Program. I want to start there. What is that program? How did it come about? And what is it all about?
So this is a program that is for our diverse founders, so women or people of color who are just starting out with their companies. And this is really meant to fill an important gap, which is access to culturally competent mentors and networks that a lot of women and people of color face. And so our big idea was to help connect these entrepreneurs to mentors with expertise, very focused on what they're doing in really the next 6 months, right? So this is step-by-step work. And that look like them. So if I'm a woman, I have a woman mentor on my team. If I'm a Black woman, I have a Black woman on my team. And I'm matched with two mentors that can help me work through really critical issues like, how do I set up my first customer conversations? What's my pricing structure look like? You know, all the things that our advisors can help on, but don't necessarily have 10, 20 hours a month to spend with our companies. So this is really meant to help, especially first-time entrepreneurs, work through some of these critical first steps.
So this is an amazing program, right? Number one, because there was a need in the market. So what was the process that you had to go through to identify this need? Was this need just so apparent? Was it based on feedback for the community? What was your process? Like, you coach your entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. Don't launch a program unless you do your market research. So what was the process through which you identified, this is a problem worth solving?
So, as you know, in the startup world, we see a lot of gaps, nationally, that women and people of color face when trying to start a business. So that we knew that overall this need for culturally competent mentorship and connection was important. And there's a lot of people that can speak to that. What we saw on the ground, how that played out for us was fewer diverse entrepreneurs making it from one stage to the next. So that's the gap that we were trying to fill, knowing nationally what the data tells us about what those entrepreneurs need, knowing that we have, anywhere of, between 100 to 130 clients we're managing with a small team. We knew that we ourselves couldn't necessarily put more time and hours in, and that maybe wasn't the right approach. Instead, we took a look at best practices and mentoring programs for VC funds and other studios and things like that, and found that kind of teams of mentoring and coaches surrounding a company in its earliest stages has seen some success. So that's the work that we did to create the program.
So that's absolutely true, Alicia. I've experienced that firsthand, right? Of, wanting to build a company, needing the advice, not really knowing where to go. But I think you guys have added an extra layer. And sometimes this gets misunderstood. Like somehow this is a carve out or it's a special program. Why do women need more assistance than men? Or why do people of color get all of these carve outs? Let's deal with that issue up front, because for us to move forward with these programs and make sure that these programs are successful, we need to deal with some of these issues that get thrown out as to why do these subgroups within our society need this extra help?
Well, it's funny. I was just talking to someone about this before this. Our goal is to create a level playing field for all entrepreneurs in the Central Ohio region. And when you're dealing with systemic racism and systemic sexism and, a lingering generational wealth gap, sometimes you have to add on additional layers to help bridge those gaps. So our overall approach to diversity and inclusion is to look at gaps at every stage of the process, from idea through funding, and see, what is it that entrepreneurs that haven't historically been funded by venture capital, haven't historically created startups, what are the barriers keeping them from creating those startups and getting that funding? And how can we, as a nonprofit serving the Central Ohio region, help bridge those gaps? So the gaps are real and the data is there. And so that's why we have these additional resources.
I like the altruistic explanation there. Yeah. Historical gaps, people who have been marginalized for a long time. But let's make the business case here. Okay. We're business people. So that's one side. And that might win over some people and say, yes, everything that you've said just now resonates with me and I believe it. But there are some other people on the other side of the aisle who might really be thinking about, is there a true business case here? Okay. So what is the business case? Pure numbers of taking these dollars, investing it in this program. What is going to be the return for Central Ohio and beyond?
So what we know and what data shows is that diverse teams perform better. I don't have all the facts and figures in front of me, but there are, there's data that shows that diverse leadership teams produce better financial returns. Diverse sales teams produce better sales revenue. Women founders are more resourceful and make dollars go longer, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why diverse teams perform better. And as a venture development firm and the startup studio here in Central Ohio, we're in the business of creating successful companies. So why wouldn't we look at all measures of success and say, hey, diverse teams perform better. How do we create more diverse founding teams? And how do we help our companies hire more diverse teams as they grow?
All right, so let's jump into eligibility, okay? I'm sold, right? I was probably sold even before this conversation, but you sold me, okay? You did such a great job. But let's talk about how we get into this program. What is the eligibility criteria for the Grow to Scale mentor program?
Rev1 clients that have at least one diverse founder, or on the leadership team, so a woman or person of color, and we define people of color as Black or African American, Asian/Pacific Islander, Latino, Native American, and those are the categories. So those categories, you come to Rev1, we decide to work with you as a company. You're building a high growth, tech enabled startup. You're in the region, you're within the industries we serve, and we see the potential for you to create a business like that. We ask you to come work with us. Part of that initial conversation about what we can do together, we say, we have this mentor program. Would you like to participate? It's that simple. And then the entrepreneur says yes or no. Most of them say yes. And we look at our database of mentors. It's a small list. I would say list more than database. Look at what the entrepreneurs are trying to accomplish. What competencies do the mentors have? We create the mentoring team, and then they work together alongside the Rev1 advisor for up to 6 months before reassessing what progress has been made and whether they want to continue for another 6 months.
Okay, great. Sounds simple enough, but there are some terms that you use there that may need a little bit more definition in terms of eligibility criteria. You said criteria number one, they must be a Rev1 client. I want to dig into how you become a Rev1 client. And number two, you said high scaling tech something. Yes, yes, exactly that. That's what I meant to say. Okay. So we need to understand what those two things mean, and then we could put the eligibility picture together.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with the high growth tech enabled part of the equation. So a tech enabled product or service is one that uses technology to grow or to scale. So I think the simplest way to understand this is if I have a consulting firm and I'm doing, consulting for businesses, and the way I do that is one-on-one consulting, I can grow my business if I either work more hours or add more people to my consulting business. And it's a one-to-one relationship, right? Resources equals dollars coming in. If you're using technology to scale a business, you are basically at the beginning, you may be doing some of that hands-on work, but as you build out the technology, you start to leverage that to scale, and on more, maybe you put in 1 unit of resource and get 5 new customers, right? Or you put in 1 unit of resource and get 20 new customers. And so you're leveraging that technology to service your customers on a broader scale. That's pretty simplistic. I don't know if that's the official definition, but that's how I try to explain it. And then high growth basically means you're doing that, that scaling is happening on a pretty broad level. So you're selling to large companies, you're bringing in a lot of revenue per customer, right? And that trajectory starts to take off. You're in a market that's growing, so you have the potential to, kind of exponentially grow year over year. So those are all things that combine into that kind of high growth tech enabled type of categorization. A lot of it has to do with industry as well. So, we're looking at a lot of IT companies, but we're also looking at life sciences. Gene therapy is exploding in this region. That's something that we've had a lot of success with. So it's a combination of who you're selling to, kind of what your business model is, how large is your market, and what industry are you in.
Okay, love it. So I get it. And I love the example because we were at Pitch Columbus and there was an entrepreneur who came. Big shout out to Jordan Dunlap, Daily Abiding Media, but she has a consultancy, right, where they do social media management. And one of the obstacles to growing one or 2 or 3 person agency is that for every, maybe 5 or 10 clients today, they need to add a person. Right.
Exactly.
And there are opportunities to automate or use technology to become more efficient. So maybe for every 100 clients you add 1 person because the technology makes it easier. So that definition and example makes it real for a lot of people. The other thing is then how do I, if I do have that, become a Rev1 client?
Can I add one thing to the definition?
This is your show. Yes, of course.
The technology you're using is something you created. Very important part of that definition.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's exactly what I shared with her. I said, nobody knows your business better than you. Nobody knows what a potential solution that other folks in your industry who have a similar problem. I mean, you can tell that story because that is a problem that you're experiencing firsthand. And if you build a solution and it works for you, it could work for others. So yes, I do agree with you.
Yep, absolutely. So to become a Rev1 client, you reach out to us on our website, put my name down if you're watching this podcast. And basically, you fill out an inquiry form and we take a look at that and we look to see, are you in the Columbus region? Are you in an industry that kind of is on our list of industries we work with? What stage are you at? And do we think we can help? And we'll get on a first call. We have an intake team that manages those and they pull in people from across the business. And then from there, we identify whether You have customer validation, which basically means you talk to customers and they like your idea and they think you're building something they might want to buy. If you don't have that, we have a program called Customer Learning Lab where we teach you how to do that, and you do some initial customer validation in Customer Learning Lab. You participated, so you know what I'm talking about. If you do have that, we'll talk about engagement directly, and then after Customer Learning Lab as well. So companies basically that come to us either through Customer Learning Lab or on their own with some sort of customer validation, building high growth potential tech-enabled product or service. That's who we're looking for. So then it's very simple. We ask you if you'd like to work with us for 6 months. We get together, we figure out what we want to work on together, and we go from there.
Listen, I've been through Customer Learning Lab, and the one thing you got to say about building startups is it's going to be a lot of hard work. So this is not anything like, you're just going to come in here, you're going to, without doing the work. Don't be afraid of the work, but also something very important. Don't be afraid of rejection. Alicia they're making an open offer to engage with them. No matter where you are, whether it's just an idea or you're building something, that's what Rev1 is part of this community. They want to be engaged with entrepreneurs. So reach out to them no matter the phase. And there is a process through which you can continue to develop your idea, whether it's through the tools that they make available for free online on their website, or through Customer Learning Lab, which I was invited to and participated in, and I'm eternally grateful for, or a program like the Grow to Scale Mentor Program, if you do become a client that continues along that roadmap. And like you said, for certain entrepreneurs, even if they cross that first hurdle of getting into Rev1 and they do have that tech-enabled solution, they still need additional time. Let's talk about the time and the importance of mentorship, right? Even though you've kind of crossed the threshold and you're part of this, why is mentorship, somebody who has done it before, who has more experience, important for the success of an early stage company?
I'm gonna add on for this program specifically, not just mentorship, but mentorship from someone that looks like me and that has a common culture, common understanding to work from, and that's a huge part of this program. It's important because a lot of the entrepreneurs we work with are first-time entrepreneurs, so they don't know what they don't know, right? And they need help. And advice from people who have been there and done that, hopefully more than once, right? And who can give advice based in knowledge and understanding and have the empathy to say, I've been there, I get it. You had a tough conversation with a potential customer, or you're not charging enough for your product, and here's why, here's what my experience tells me. And it's just so important to have something, to have people surrounding you that can give you really good advice and support and make connections where possible. And for this program, each mentor will spend up to 10 hours a month with a client versus our advisors, which spend 1 to 2 hours a month with the client. They have other studio resources to take advantage of. There are other learning labs or service providers, but that one-on-one support is fairly limited based on the number of clients we're serving. And so we bring in these mentors. We pay the mentors for their time because there aren't a ton of diverse mentors that have the experience and knowledge, right? And we want this program to be a priority. We want our clients to be a priority. So a big part of what the EDA is funding is paying the mentors for their time. And so they're able to spend that one-on-one time with the company, or they're able to reach out to their networks. We've had potential customer introductions and things like that, or potential investor introductions. So it's just really important to have some people you can trust and that can tell you hard things, and you trust that what they're saying is true and genuine, and they're not just kind of blowing you off. It's really important at this stage, especially when you're new, you're at the very early stages, you're working your butt off, you think you have the best idea in the world. You need people around you who can say you're in the right direction or you need to course correct.
Yeah, I love that. Entrepreneurship is extremely lonely. if you're a solo founder, and I don't know what kind of data you have on people of color and women or how many of them are starting off as solo founders. So having that also as a support system is very important. So I'm a big proponent of mentorship. If you're out there and you're thinking about engaging with Rev1, now is the time to do so. We will include a link to this program and the other program that we're going to talk about after the break in the show notes. All right, folks, you're hanging out with us. You're learning about what's happening at Rev1. Hopefully you're getting excited about applying for these programs. Before we go to the break though, Alicia, I want to touch on one more thing. You talk about mentors who look like me, but you already have 8 startups as part of the first cohort in this program. Do you mind sharing who are some of the, or can you share who are some of the folks who are already engaged in this program if you have that information? Because not only is it important to have mentors like that look like you, it's important to have other founders along the way who look like you, who are also on the journey. Any names you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and he was quoted in our press release, so I know I can share this. So Kenny Ananuke, who is a former NFL player, he's creating a kind of a support for your hands for when you're playing sports. He has a finger that goes this way, so it's basically to prevent that from happening. Sorry, I wasn't trying to flip you off. And Kenny's a great example because this is the second time we worked with him. He came to us several years ago with this idea. He is a busy guy. He has supporting a family. He was doing some coaching, and he paused for a while, and now he's come back, and it's a great time for him to come back because we're able to connect him to 2 really great mentors. And so that's another point is this can be a very long journey, and sometimes you got to take a pause. Sometimes it's not the right time. So he's a great example. Let's go with that one since I know that we can talk about him. Most of these companies would probably love for me to talk about them. Actually, Bosa, I'll talk about Bosa. They have a website. Bosa is a solution to help you crowdsource your to-do list, which is really interesting. So that is actually a company that is located in Cincinnati. We do work statewide if it makes sense for us to work statewide. We have other entities like us in various regions, but we do collaborate, and sometimes we might have the best resource for a company in a different region. And that is a founding team that is working with 2 of our two mentors as well. So that's an interesting idea. That's a kind of business to consumer type of business model. And we don't always work with those, but we were just so impressed with that founding team and what they've been able to accomplish that we took them on as a client, and they've been a great company to work with.
Yeah, listen, extraordinary ideas can find an exclusion, right? The right team can find an exclusion. That's another thing about hesitating because you feel like you don't check all the boxes. I don't know anybody right out of the gate that checks all the boxes. But in the story of Bosa, you hear that if you have a compelling enough idea and you do the work, even if it's not necessarily right in that lane, but it's a company worth nurturing, organizations like Rev1 and others want to see you succeed. Why? Because when you succeed, we all succeed. All right, folks, you are listening to the #1 business podcast in Columbus, Ohio, 614 Startups. We'll be right back after these messages. This episode is brought to you by KJK. Tired of the billable hour? KJK has a solution. The KJK GC Advantage program offers businesses comprehensive legal services in the areas of employment, corporate services, real estate, trademark, intellectual property, and estate planning, all for a set monthly fee. KJK serves as their clients' partners in business, not just their lawyers. Along with cost certainty and predictability, the KJK GC Advantage program gives clients peace of mind, knowing their projects will be handled quickly and efficiently, maximizing the return on investment on their legal spend. So don't go it alone, let KJK help. Learn more by visiting kjk.com. Today's episode is sponsored by the City of Dublin's Division of Economic Development. The City of Dublin provides world-class, tailored business services and resources to ensure the best possible environment for businesses to recruit talent and thrive. Because of this strategic focus and commitment to employer growth, Dublin is the only accredited economic development organization in the state of Ohio. The City of Dublin supports startups and entrepreneurs by offering targeted resources and training programs to grow companies that are financially sustainable, innovative, and committed to creating jobs. Learn how other businesses depend on Dublin. Visit thriveindublinohio.com. 614 Startups Nation, welcome back. This is Elio Harmon, your host. And I know you went down to the show notes during the break and you clicked on that link, and you're probably submitting your application in another window as we continue this conversation. But we got a doozy for you. We got another grant fund at Rev1 we're going to talk about in this segment called the DE&I Grant Fund, or in other words, the Rev1 Ventures Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Grant Fund. All right, Alicia, what is this grant fund all about? Who are you targeting and who's eligible?
So this grant fund came about, honestly, out of frustration of seeing diverse founders, Black founders especially, not have the early friends and family funding they needed to prove out their concept to get to the point where they could raise funding from an investor like Rev1. And just wanting to know, what could we do? So with the way, and I think I mentioned this earlier, it's like we see a problem, right? We know it's a problem. We all know that, especially for Black Americans, African Americans, that there's this persistent generational wealth gap. Don't got a rich network where you can go get money from people to build out an idea to get to the point where you can raise funding. And so that's nationally known. We've seen it right here, like I said, people having to give up on their idea. And so we thought that's something we can help with, right? We understand money. We know how to give money away, or we know how to invest money. And what if we could just get started with a small grant fund, see if it can make a difference for some of these founders and help them on their journey as they prepare to raise concept or seed funding. And that was the goal. It is available again to not just Rev1 clients, actually. So let me back up. So we started this fund last year. Rev1 did our first pilot initiative. We funded 3 companies. And we learned a lot from that process. We were able to secure additional funding from the City of Columbus and Franklin County, who have been amazing partners for Rev1 and our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as working on behalf of diverse entrepreneurs in the community. So I give them a shout out. What we're doing now is we're opening up, we're creating kind of a semi-open application process. So people will be invited to apply, but we will be reaching out to companies that went through Customer Learning Lab from 2000 to now, and reaching back out to them to see if they've continued working, right? Did they take our advice? Did they build something? If they have, they can apply, or our clients. So again, you kind of need to be within the Rev1 wheelhouse, mainly because we have a handful of people that will be working on this, and we need to kind of limit the number of applications. But we'll pull in these applications through an online form. We'll score them according to a rubric that will be published, and then the top 5 scoring companies will be invited to pitch to the grant committee. And then we will announce, hopefully at the end of that, we'll announce two recipients of those awards. So that's non-dilutive funding. It's a grant. Doesn't affect your future cap table. You just take it and either pay yourself or go build your product to test out in the market. So that's the primary use that we've seen so far.
Okay, are you telling me my invitation is in the mail? Okay, no worry, Alicia. I know I'm at the top of that list. All right, awesome. All right, so I love this. Let's talk about non-dilutive capital.
Yep.
And the importance of that in the early stages. I know we're exploring the issue of the wealth gap and the lack of friends and family. I mean, that is a topic that folks can go out and find a ton of research on. Mm-hmm. But maybe there might not be readily accessible information that we can just give them a little morsel of the importance of not diluting too early or giving away too much equity. Let's break that down and why a fund like this is so significant in the early stages.
I mean, basically, At this point in building the startup, you have a few options for funding it. So you have your own money that you can put into it, or maybe you have a spouse who can support you, and or you don't do a job and you focus on this full time. You have friends and family you can raise money from, and there's a lot of restrictions around that. You can't just go to grandma and say, give me some money, right? There's all kinds of restrictions around that. And that's about it. So this money really, it's a grant, which means you don't have to pay it back. So it's not a loan, so you don't have to pay it back. And it also, you're not giving away an ownership share in your company. You want to be really careful early on when you're doing that, because when you're thinking about how to fund your business, because there will be service firms or some accelerators that will say, hey, give me 20% of your company and I'll do this for you. That doesn't seem like a whole lot when your company is worth zero. But if you go on to raise funding, first of all, there are going to be things that investors look at and say, oh, that wasn't a very good idea. I don't know if I want to get involved in that, because maybe you've already shot yourself in the foot. Or you go on and all of a sudden that service provider that built your hinky second, version of your MVP, all of a sudden owns a lot of money or a larger share of your company. That's layman's terms, because I am not on the investments team, but that's basically what you're looking at. So what this gives you is basically money, free money. I mean, we do due diligence around, as if it were an investment. We do some homework on you and your background and all that, because, it's free money. We do some due diligence, obviously, as we're not just throwing money out of our cars or driving down the street. And it's competitive, right? But what it's going to do is get you to the point where you're better positioned to raise money that is equity based without tying yourself to a bad deal early on.
Yeah. So, I love that, right? Because investors in later rounds look at your cap table. It says a lot about your judgment. It says a lot about, your approach to business, your understanding of investing and accepting capital and things of that nature. So that's very important. And I like the fact that Rev1 ties everything to education. Part of this grant fund is also educational workshops. So do you guys already have like that curriculum? And so if somebody does get awarded that grant fund, what are some of those educational workshops that you provide so that they can continue to grow in their knowledge and understanding as founders?
Yeah, so we have a number of what we call learning labs that are really focused on kind of addressing, every business is unique, but every business has to kind of overcome the same risk areas and roadblocks as they build a business. So we've created a curriculum really focused around a lot of those roadblocks. So everything from how do you build a board that actually works for you and supports you as a founder? How do you raise institutional funding? How do you identify investors and build out a capital access plan? How do you close your first customer? How do you scale your sales pipeline? So you have access to all of those workshops as well, and that education as a part of this.
Now, so I'm taking all the benefits if you got them. Okay, is it possible to be both part of the grant fund and also be part of the mentorship program?
Absolutely, yeah. And so that's what you're layering on. So again, you're thinking about that gap between idea and raising what we call institutional funding, which would be kind of that equity-based funding from Rev1 and other institutional fundings. That's a big gap. And so especially, again, if you're facing additional challenges. So the idea is the mentor program will help you get the traction you need to apply for the grant funding, which will give you the financial traction you need, as well as additional support from the mentor program to get to the point where you can say, okay, I can raise a concept stage round, right? Or I can raise a seed stage round. So going back to the idea of creating a level playing field by layering on services where there are gaps from people who have not traditionally been part of this ecosystem.
Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, it feels very much like we're building the scaffolding, right? We're building the support system that these companies need to get to the next level and continue to succeed. So, is this exclusive for full-time founders? Do I need to be working on this as my exclusive
Good question.
company? Do I need to be full-time, or can I start off part-time, and as I start to gain traction, gain funding, and I'm able to pay myself, can I transition at that point?
Yeah. So the idea is you're working towards working on the business full-time. The thing that's different about this funding is you can use it to pay yourself. So the most common uses we've seen is to pay the founder, pay for professional services, or pay for kind of the product MVP.
But let me just make sure I nail you down on this. On day one, should I be full-time, or is it a part of the due diligence process is seeing a roadmap or seeing a pathway? And are you preparing yourself as a founder to make that transition? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. Well said.
Okay, perfect. So I have a couple of friends, right, that are on the list of companies that have already received this funding. A couple of 614 Startups podcast alums like Sam Badu of Flary, a company I'm very excited about. Equitech, I missed the founder's talk at Rev1, so I got to connect with him. I can't think of his name right now. And then, of course, Doug McCullough and the entire team over at Color Coded Labs. So let's talk about the three recipients and kind of what you're most excited about seeing from these companies over the next couple of years.
Yeah, so Flary, Sam is a great founder. He's very thoughtful and knows his market like nobody else. For me, it's been exciting working with him, partly because it's a new problem and a new new customer base that we haven't necessarily addressed. So that's really interesting. And we've actually seen more ideas come to us through Customer Learning Lab that are focused around some sort of financial app or application for people who have immigrated here for companies, but for their families back home. So it's kind of given us an extra layer of understanding of how those transactions in that market work. So it's been great learning for us as well. We were really excited to help Sam find a way to connect directly with kind of remittance companies and start selling directly to them as well as to consumers. And so that was an exciting way we were able to help him. And I just, really excited about that one. And then Color Coded Labs is a little bit different. We've known Doug with his work as the CIO of Dublin. We have known Brandon and Bruce Jones since, I don't know, they first launched Black Hack. They launched it at Rev1 Labs. So we've had a long relationship with a lot of the founders on that team. And this was really an opportunity for us to leverage this fund to help a company that is trying to help the community and create talent that could potentially come into the startups as well as the corporates in the region. So Color Coded Labs, again, is just a group that we've worked with for a long time in various efforts and iterations. So it was just a real pleasure to help support them through this grant fund.
Yeah, two markets I'm very passionate about. So very early on, Sam and I'm driving in my car. He and I are having a conversation about Flary, and some of it was kind of the genesis for what the business model was going to be. I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa. He is I think he's from Ghana originally, or I believe so. And so we had so much in common about this idea of remittances back home and the different purposes and the problem of creating healthcare markets. It's the classic problem or the chicken or the egg. Mm-hmm. Is it the healthcare system in Africa in general, in different countries in Africa, can it be improved by the spending power available to purchase these products? or do they need to build out the infrastructure for great healthcare, and then the money will come? And so I love what he's doing by front running and creating an insurance market in order to inspire entrepreneurs, knowing that there's going to be money to pay for these services to build the infrastructure. So I'm a big fan of Flurry, and of course, Color Coded Labs. Turning out talent. I was there when they graduated their first cohort of programmers and coders. And so two great companies. All right, Alicia, I'm going to give you the final word after we come back from this break. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. The purpose of this is not to be a passive listener. The purpose of this show is to get you in the game. Rev1 has opened the door. Here's your opportunity. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. We'll be right back after these messages. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Book and Street. Book and Street provides finance and accounting solutions for startups in the Midwest and beyond. From strategic financial support to bookkeeping and everything in between, they've got your back office covered. Let their experienced team of finance and accounting professionals help your startup get it right from the start. Learn more at bookandstreet.com and set up your free 30-minute consultation with their team today. 614 Startups Nation, if you have gotten this far, this means Rev1 is for you. One of these two programs is for you, but we want to leave you with like a little takeaway, right? If you haven't been inspired to act yet, now is the time. All right, Alicia, you get the final word.
Absolutely. So first, I want to shout out Aventi and Deanna Barnett's team at Aventi. They do a lot of early education before companies get to us, helping to spread the word about building a high growth startup. So give them a shout out. And then also want to let you know that not only should you go fill out our Get Started form, but sign up for our events newsletter. We'll let you know about startup events around the region, as well as our own startup events. We have a founder story coming up next month. The guest speaker is TBD, but you'll get news about that, and you can come out and meet the Rev1 team.
There you have it. And Rev1 has an excellent and growing team. I've been following you guys on social media. So you guys are stacking the deck for success like any great company does. And so there are a ton of folks to connect with at Rev1. You can catch them at one of the Rev1 events. If you want to meet them in person, feel them out before you go through the application process. You don't need to, but there are a lot of events, and usually they're attended by somebody from Rev1. Like we have an event coming up on September the 29th, 2022. Called Pitch Columbus. We're going to have 4 companies there pitching along with a Rev1 alum. This is some breaking news. So Luke Buchanan is going to be opening up Pitch Columbus, and we're calling it the pitch that sealed the deal. Okay. So he's having a pitch before and raise capital is going to inspire those early stage founders who are going to pitch after him with his experience raising capital. All right, folks, so many things going on in the capital city. Columbus is growing, and you should get your piece of the pie. Until next time, see you later. Peace. That's a wrap, folks. You can find this and all our episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review. If you'd like updates sent directly to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. To engage in the 614 Startups community, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 614 Startups on all platforms, and join the conversation. For sponsorship opportunities and collaborations, email us at info@614startups.com.